If you're the kind of person who watches this channel, you might agree that the outdoors are the best place to disconnect. But they also have a way of reminding us how addicted we all are to our devices, to all the stuff we have to charge, the phones, the headlamps, the cameras, all of that. So power banks are pretty much a necessity for multi-day trips, and 10,000 milliamp hours, in my experience, is just about the sweet spot. So let's take a look at two contenders for the crown of the best ultralight 10K power bank, the Flextail Zero Power and the Nitecore NB10000 Gen 4. I've been a Nitecore user for a couple of years. They were kind of the default recommendation on ultralight forums for a long time, and I had the first and second generation plus a few of their headlamps. Generally very solid. The only issue that I ran into was the Gen 2 USB port tongue working itself loose over time. Apparently a known problem that they have since fixed. Flextail, I know less well on the battery side, but I've been using their max pump for my pack rafts, and that's held up well. So both brands have earned at least a second date. Fair warning up front, neither of these is exactly cheap. They are built to be very light, and as usual, that adds to the cost. That said, depending on where you buy it and what sales are running, the Flextail tends to be 10 to 30 euros or dollars cheaper. The Nitecore does include a lanyard charging cable in the box, and that is an extra purchase with a Flextail, so factor that in. If you look at the numbers, I think the Nitecore does have some advantage here, but not a dramatic one. This is Gen 4. They've been iterating on this design for years, and it does show. The Flextail is advertised as 2 grams heavier, but surprisingly on my scale, it's actually the other way around. Either way, we're talking about the weight of a paperclip. Even in the ultralight world, that's probably not going to be a major deciding factor for most people. They both top out at 22.5 watts of output, which is mostly going to matter if you have a recent high-end phone, since most other devices can't actually charge that fast. They both offer dual mode charging. It means they have a fast mode and an efficiency mode that trades speed for total capacity. You charge slower, but you get more juice out of the battery. In that efficiency mode, the Flextail delivers around 7,000 milliamp hours of usable energy. The Nitecore about 7,200, so roughly 3% more. Nice, but probably not something you will be noticing in the field. The shape of the Flextail is thinner and wider, closer to a small smartphone, as well as to the previous generations of Nitecores. The Gen 4 Nitecore is more compact and blocky. It does feel smaller, even if the numbers say otherwise. The Nitecore is IPX7 water resistant. That means submersion up to 1 meter deep. Pretty impressive for a power bank. The Flextail tops out at IPX4, meaning splash proof, but not dunk proof. If you're doing river crossings or pack rafting, that gap may matter. For everyone else, it's probably one of those extra bits of insurance that you most likely won't need. They both have 2 USB-C ports, but one of those is output only. You can't use it to charge the bank itself. It's labeled on the port, but it's exactly the kind of thing that you forget at the least convenient moment. You plug in at camp, you fall asleep, and then you wake up to a dead power bank and a long day ahead. So they're both the same setup, so it doesn't really matter which one you choose, but in a perfect world, I would prefer ports to be both handling input and output. Rest of the interface is roughly a draw. The Flextail's button is easier to find in the dark. The Nitecore's charge indicator is better positioned. Honestly, both are fine. And if you're buying direct, Nitecore does tend to ship a few days faster, which is worth knowing if you're a last-minute packer. Both of these are what I would call 3-season power banks because neither of them handles the cold particularly well. You'll want to keep them in the sleeping bag at night or close to your body during the day when it's very cold. And if you're the kind of person who regularly does serious winter trips, I would probably be looking elsewhere. So, which one? My honest take is that the Nitecore is the more polished product. You can tell that it's got 4 generations of refinement behind it. If you're pack rafting or you just want a thing that's been stress tested longer, I think it's the safer choice. The Flextail, however, is cheaper and honestly quite close. I don't think it's better, but it is probably the better value. That's it for me. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.